Hey everyone, Brian Von VA here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. Today we've got DMs or players of r/MrRipper. What was the best instance of overkill you have either done or witnessed? Part 1. I'll go first. Point of note, this was a level 20 party. Let me explain exactly how the stars aligned for this one hit that was definitely completely necessary. Not really. The pit fiend we were fighting was knocked unconscious, not killed, by a sleep spell cast by the Valor Bard. The Bard had given me an inspiration die. The Grave Domain Cleric had cast Holy Weapon on me earlier in the fight and used her channel divinity, Path to the Grave, while the pit fiend was sleeping, to make the next attack deal double damage. Previously in the fight, my Oathbreaker Paladin had cast Bestow Curse at 5th level, making it non-concentration, and also Drunken Enlarging Potion. I also had Great Weapon Master, the Holy Avenger, and as a bonus action on my turn, I cast Banishing Smite. I already knew that this was completely unnecessary, but at that point, I was just going for the new table record for damage in one attack. Previous was 236 by our rogue. I hit the big ugly sleeping devil baby, and because it was unconscious, it was an auto crit. 2d6 for the greatsword, 2d8 for holy weapon, 2d10 for the holy avenger, 5d10 for banishing smite, 1d8 for improved divine smite, 1d8 because he was a fiend, 5d8 for the 4th level divine smite I dumped on his ass, 1d4 for being enlarged, 1d8 for the one option of bestow curse, and then finally 1d12 from the Valor Bard's inspiration I added to my damage roll. All of that was then doubled because it was a critical hit, plus 10 for GWM, Great Weapons Master, and then plus 5 for my Strength modifier, plus 3 from Holy Avenger, with an additional plus 5 from my Aura of Hate. In addition, I was also a Fallen Aasimar with my Necrotic Shroud active, giving an additional 20 damage. But then, all of that gets doubled again from Path to the Grave, making the Pit Fiend vulnerable to all of the attack's damage. I hit it with an attack that did 684-ish points of fuck you in particular damage. That's enough damage to one-shot the Terrarask, and I spent the one time it would ever happen on a sleeping Pit Fiend that had 17 health left. Worth it. For context of character, I was playing a lawful human wizard named Nicholas in a martial heavy group for a higher level campaign. He was my favorite character, though his last name was actually Arlen, or Arlen. He was always reserved and calm, even in the face of death. He was basically the group's battle tactician during combat because he always had a plan no matter how difficult the challenge ahead. Not everyone liked the idea of the guy with the lowest hit points taking the lead though, especially the battle master of our group. He only used his highest level spell slots in case of an emergency, or if I knew there would be a rest coming up. Anyways, we had tracked down the big bad after raiding one of his strongholds, and we were more than sure he would be at this next castle we found. After fighting through some of his minions, we came to a large chamber with a 20-foot hole in the ground and the big bad on the opposite side of the hole. He wasn't alone though. He had a sword over the throat of an older human male who happened to be Nicholas's father. The big bad calls out to us, "One step closer, and his body hits the floor." Up until this point, Nicholas's father, who was a soldier, was missing and was presumed dead during one of his deployments. When Nicholas saw who was on the sharp end of the sword, he made everyone in the party stand down. The villain did a bit of monologuing. The DM watched us squirm in our seats until he went, "You know what? Screw it." And he slit the man's throat right there and dropped him into the hole. Before the DM could tell us to roll initiative, I yelled, "8th level lightning bolt." Everyone jumped, but the DM allowed it and rolled the big bad save, and failed. I dropped 13d6 on the table for a total of 40-ish damage. The big bad only had about 20 hit points, and he was supposed to run away while thugs distracted us. After that, I threw everything I had at the thugs who stayed and fought us. It was a massacre. When all was said and done, I thought there was no hope for Nicholas's father. But then our cleric shouted that he had resurrection prepared, so we fetched the man's body and brought him back to life. Father and son reunited and had a moment of bonding. And after that session, no one questioned the wizard in battle. Our party is still newish, so nothing too crazy like 600 plus damage. Seriously, OP, that is crazy, and this narrator agrees. The party was a rogue, a grave cleric, and a life cleric, plus an NPC cleric, but that's neither here nor there. All at level 5. They were fighting an elite drow warrior, one that managed to knock the grave cleric unconscious once, so they were all afraid of him. The grave cleric decided to cast Path to the Grave on him, making him vulnerable to attack, double the damage. The life cleric didn't really know what to do, so she blesses the rogue. Another d4. The rogue flanks so he can sneak attack, rolls a critical, and dealing insane damage for their level. And it essentially deletes the guy. That's a great way of putting it. So, funny story. 2 of these players played through Lost Mines, so I decided to make them local heroes. Before this encounter, they goofed around a lot, so when the NPC encountered them, she didn't believe that they were the heroes. Needless to say, she believes them now. Player here. There was a time when I was playing at a friend's house with 2 others and the DM. We were fairly low level, 5, and were in a tower fighting some skeletons. As one of us had realized, we could insta-kill them with a nearby spike pit. That was our main method of killing them. My character, a blood hunter Damphir, I believe that's how you pronounce it, is in the thick of it, and has a bright idea. Cut back to far earlier in the campaign, where I had the bright idea of tying my trident to the 50-foot rope in my possession. Of course, I still cannot throw it more than once per round for balance. So, back in this tower, I decide to, very sensibly, throw my trident right at the skeleton, hook it in, yank it back to me, and then slam it headlong into the spikes. The DM automatically gives me a success. Our DM likes to add some personal touches to existing campaigns. In this instance, we were playing Curse of Strahd when we came across a case of demonic possession. Now, we had finally gotten the fiend to show itself, and my Paladin / Hexblade was having the worst of luck trying to hit the blasted thing, so instead I used my first 2 turns to activate Hexblade's curse, and the Hex spell. On the 3rd turn, I finally managed to land an attack, a crit at that, and chose to do as much damage as I could. 2d8 plus 4 for the weapon, plus 2 from Duelist Fighting Style, another plus 2 from Hexblade's Curse, 2d6 from Hex, and of course, 6d8 from Divine Smite. That's when the DM told me this thing was vulnerable to Radiant, and I rolled really well, culminating in something like 124 damage at level 3. Level 6 party. Fighting an undead pirate captain they had almost killed in the previous session. I'm DM, players are a Hexblade Warlock, Thief Rogue, and Gloomstalker Ranger. In round 1, Warlock used an ability of a magic cloak he had to teleport into the pirate captain's shadow, and stole the compass that was controlling a large, undead shipwreck monster. Thief did 30-something damage on 1 hit, Ranger used all the beans, and he had favored foe, undead. Hunter's Mark, Heavy Crossbow X3, Archery Fighting Style, Thorn Whip, cast from Magic Crossbow, 1d6 Necrotic X3, switch times 3, from Crossbow as well, and first round extra 1d8 from Gloomstalker. My monster had 169 HP at the start of the round, it had 50-something by the end of it. It didn't die, so I don't know if that counts as overkill, but geez. Well, we as a party of 6 level 15s were fighting a minor god, and we had an NPC druid who was also level 15. I forget what spell was cast, but you can cast it in the same place like 10 times in 1 turn. I assume they mean 10 times. And it does an insane amount of damage. Needless to say, the god was slain, and the DM got pissed, brought it back to life, and was instantly killed by the druid box again. Don't know if it counts for overkill, but sure felt like it. So, obligatory, not the DM. For some backstory, I was playing a beast barbarian shifter Longtooth, never heard of that before, in a party of 3, the 2 others being a bard and a druid. At that moment in the campaign, we were level 5 and investigating a magic shop for some kind of magic clock, which would later reveal was the cause of a time loop. So anyways, we got a lead from an anonymous source that there was a way into the shop through the sewer system. So off we went. After a little while in a very stinky sewer, we were about to turn around a corner when we heard 2 voices. Around the corner stood 2 guards in what looked like to be medium to heavy armor guarding a door. The 2 other party members began to discuss what the best action was, but after some time my barbarian began to be very bored and decided to himself that he could take down the 2 guards. Before the rest of the party had any time to react, he had both raged and shifted, an ability that shifters have to become more beast-like, giving them some sort of bonus, this one being able to bite as a bonus action. He then used his claws, which turned his 2 attacks into 4, and absolutely gored one of the guards, getting every attack through his AC and rolling 1 nat 20. There were bits of the guard flying left and right, bathing the other guard in blood, and leaving the guard as a mangled mess of bones, flesh, and blood. My barbarian then used his bonus action to bite at the other guard. Nat 20 again. My barbarian then proceeded to rip out the throat of the poor man, leaving him gurgling on the floor. So left was my barbarian covered in blood up to his elbows and with a piece of throat hanging from his mouth. Both the DM and the rest of the party were stunned, and the DM decided that the massacre that just unfolded was so gory that the bloodstains would forever be on that door, not being able to ever be washed off. This was the character that I also had the best luck with. For example, being thrown through a house by a giant golem and only taking minimal damage, and later tackling the same golem off of a cliff and surviving out of pure luck. Damn, I miss my barbarian. Godspeed to you, Brulo, breaker of doors. I have one from my last session, actually. Several of my players worked together for this one. I'm the DM, and we had a party consisting of a drow monk, a winter eladrin druid, a fire genasi arcane archer, a human hobo wizard, and a tiefling bard. The eladrin druid tamed a crow and named it Crow the previous session. It had gotten the killing blow on our redcap they'd been fighting and killed a murder suspect the party was trying to bring in with a critical hit. The last session, a criminal attacked the human hobo wizard, claiming that he'd cheated him at cards and wanted his mug back. The wizard had won a magical mug that makes you drunk, no matter what liquid you pour into it, from the criminal during one of its blackout adventures. He missed the previous session. Well, the party very easily fought off this criminal, who quickly realized he was outmatched and fled. However, the crow kept attacking him as he fled, and after a brief rooftop battle, the criminal killed the crow. So, being the loving crow owner she was, the eladrin druid went out of her way to get a priest to bring the crow back to life. This is where the party decided to make the bizarre decision to make sure it stayed dead. The party chased down the druid and convinced the head priestess to not bring the crow back, with the genasi arcane archer offering 100 gold pieces to not bring the crow back to life. The druid then begged another priest and convinced him to bring back her crow. When he did, the arcane archer fired a seeking arrow and instantly killed the crow, because 1 HP crow versus auto hit. The priest then brought the crow back to life again. The genasi fires another seeking arrow, running out of seeking arrows at this point, killing the crow again. The priest, incredibly confused at this point, resurrects the crow a 3rd time and the crow starts flying away. However, he's still just within the range of a certain spell the bard has, Shatter, another spell that automatically does damage. The crow exploded and became literal roadkill. So the party may not have done a ton of damage to the crow in absolute terms, but killing the same bird that never attacked them or did anything to hurt them 3 times in a row and wasting 100 gold pieces to make sure it stayed dead seems like overkill to me. Never have I seen so much determination to kill a crow. And this narrator's left just wondering, why? Hey everyone, Brian Von VA here, checking in after the vid. If you like the vid, then please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when we go live. Sharing is caring, and as such, we'd love it if you got behind our lovely little channel and brought more D&D nerds or hopefuls into the fold by spreading us far and wide. And if you have a story you'd like to share, make sure to check out our subreddit r/MrRipper and join the Group Finder Discord if you want to find some pals to game with. Links are in the description below. Using a help action, you can come follow me, Brian Von VA, on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And I just always want to end this on a positive. Every single one of you are valid in every aspect, good or bad, up or down. How you feel and what you think is important to me and valid to everyone, or it should be. Sometimes people just need to know that, though. You're not invisible, and you're not going to be treated with some weird look. So, coming from me, you're all real and you're all worth love. So give yourself some. All the love, be safe, and we'll see you around. Bye for now.